Well, this is episode 4 of Crumpet TV, and I'm Angus McGregor coming to you live from Scotland. You know, some of you bloody wankers out there in internet land complain that in the previous episodes of Crumpet TV, I wore the same shirt, this one right here, and you said, Angus, don't you have another shirt? I mean, Christ man, yeah, I'm Scottish, but I'm not a clatte minger. I got more than one shirt, yeah. Ugh, I wear this one because it's blue and it's white, you see. And that's the colours of Scotland. But here's the other shirt I got. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the prehistory of crumpets in this episode. That's the main focus. That's right, because crumpets go all the way back to the beginning of the history of mankind. That's right. That's how wonderful and special they are. And if you didn't know that, we'll hold on to your kilts because you're about to get an education, a bloody marvellous education in this episode. Yeah. So, I thought I'd start after the discussion. We're talking about some of the great McGregors who were involved in crumpet making. And here they are, they're from my own personal family albums. This here is Andrew McGregor, that's right. He lived in the 5th century and what a marvellous tough bastard he was. A great warrior, but also he was a great baker, that's right. He loved crumpets, loved to eat them, loved to make them. In fact, he was known to say to his adversaries in battle, well, I can fight you and I can kill you, but I'd rather bake for you. That's right. He was known as Andrew Bake-A-Lot McGregor. That was his nickname in the family. And he had a famous brother. This is Colin Clephane McGregor. That's right. He was instrumental in the invention of Christmas. It used to be called Crumpet time, not Christmas time. Anyway, that's in the next episode. So back to prehistory, right? To the beginnings. And how far back, you must ask yourself, do crumpets go? Well, the origin of crumpets are in the Holy Book itself, that's right, the Bible. And if you go to the Bible, it's right in the story of Abraham and Sarah, that's right. Well, actually, technically, if you go right now to the Bible, you're not going to find the word crumpet if you do a word search. But it's in there, it's in the oral history of my family, that's right. The McGregors have been telling this story for centuries. And it goes like this. Sarah, you know, she made the bread every day for Abraham and the family. A massive amount of bread, because that's all they had back then. That and goat, you know, and roots and stuff. Anyway, she was tired of making bread that day, so she said, have one of the servants do it. And you know which one they picked? They picked a man named McCrump, that's right. One of my original descendants who made it from Scotland all the way down. It was a bloody terrible voyage back then. Boats and walking forever. Anyway, he made it to the Holy Land and they enslaved him and he worked for Sarah and Abraham. His name was McCrump. And we actually have a photograph of him, that's right. It's based on an original drawing. It's based on a lithograph and based on a drawing. Anyways, here he is. That's right, a product of a little bit too much inbreeding in Scotland, you might say, a little bit of a bam pot. He was a little bit of crazy. Anyway, of course, he made a bloody mess of the making of the bread, that's right. And it didn't turn out nice and flat, you know, like that Indian naan stuff, like the nice, like our breads, which are nice and flat. No, it had all these holes in it and ridges and turrets. It was a crumpet, of course. And Sarah, she was mortified. She wanted to kill the bloody wanker. But Abraham took a look at it and he said, you know, he was a holy man. Here he is here from the Bible. And he said, this thing has got holes in it. It's more than sacred. It's from God. It's pure, dead, brilliant. It's holy. And from that time, the Jews ate crumpets. That's right. There's plenty of proof if you look at the Bible. Here they are, the ancient Jews in Egypt, in oppressed. And what do they have on their backs? That's right, but sacks of crumpets. That's right. Now we fast forward to Moses, who was a great man. And he was the one who led the Jews out of Egypt. That's right. And here's a lithograph of him getting water from the stone in the desert. Actually, no, this is before they got to the Red Sea. And what do we have is at his feet? But a man here. And what's he got in his hand? That's right there. That's a crumpet. There's proof, if I ever saw it, that crumpets were also there in the time of Moses. Coming, of course, from the time of Abraham. So they went into the desert. And what happened to them? Well, you know, they were there for 40 years. The question is, why? Why? And I'm going to tell you, so you better be paying attention. It's because they didn't have any yeast in their bread. That's right. This is a piece of bread with yeast. You take away the yeast and what do you got? You got this matzah stuff. That's what the Jews have for Passover now. But why is it square? Well, that's because it can fit in a modern commercial box, that's right. But back in biblical times, was it square? No. It was round, that's right. Here's a picture of ancient matzah. Breakable like this. Now, why again were the Jews lost for 40 years? And I'm going to tell you. It's because even though they didn't have time to take the yeast, what they did take was the old nuts. That's right. In the previous episode, I told you that in order to preserve a crumpet, you need this gloss stuff. Otherwise, it shrivels into an old nut like this. The problem, you see, is that the old nuts, you can't eat them because they got hallucinatory powers. The biology of them changes when they crumple like this. And if you eat them, oh Christ, it's like marijuana. It's hallucinatory like the peyote stuff. And the poor Jews, all they had was the matzah. And they brought these things with them as extra food supplements. And the poor bastards were hallucinating for 40 years, eating the old nuts. And finally they ran out of old nuts after 40 years. And that's when they woke up and they said, oh my goodness, there's Canaan, the land of milk and honey, right there. It was staring them in the face. But you can't see anything if you're hallucinating, for crying out loud. Anyway, that's the story of the Bibles and crumpets. Next week, I'll get to you about the history of crumpets at Christmas time. Angus McGregor for Crumpet TV. Bye now.